Inside Sing Sing, the 9-minute window that changed everything in New York, 1983. They had 9 minutes to get it right. The guard didn't believe the timing mattered. Stay with this story. What happened in those 9 minutes exposed a flaw that had existed for decades. Officer Michael Romano stood at Gate 7 of Sing Sing Correctional Facility on October 14, 1983, watching the shift change clock. 3:51 p.m. In 9 minutes, the A-block inmates would be escorted to the cafeteria for dinner. Standard procedure. Same route. Same timing. Every single day for the past 11 years. But today, something felt wrong. Romano had worked Sing Sing for 19 years. He knew the rhythms, the patterns, the subtle changes in atmosphere that meant trouble. At 3:52 p.m., he noticed A-block was too quiet. No voices. No movement through the cell windows. Just silence. He keyed his radio. A-block to control. Something's off in here. Static. Then, define off, Romano. It's too quiet. Nobody's at their doors for count. They're probably just tired. It's Friday. Romano walked the tier. Cell by cell. Every inmate was in their cell. Sitting. Staring forward. Not at him. Not at anything. Just waiting. At 3:54 p.m., Romano filed a verbal report to his supervisor, Sergeant Dennis Cole. A-block inmates are exhibiting coordinated behavior. Request delay of movement to cafeteria. Cole reviewed the request. Denied. We can't delay movement every time you get a feeling, Romano. We have a schedule. At 3:56 p.m., Romano returned to Gate 7. For minutes until movement. He scanned the tier one more time. 78 inmates. All in cells. All silent. All waiting for 4 p.m. At 3:58 p.m., Romano noticed something on the floor near cell 23. A piece of paper. Folded. Deliberate. He picked it up. Inside, a single sentence written in pencil. The gate doesn't lock all the way. Romano looked at Gate 7. The gate he'd been standing beside for the past 7 minutes. He tested it. Pushed gently. The lock held. Solid. Secure. He pulled the gate toward him. It opened 2 inches. The lock wasn't engaging properly. The bolt was catching on something. A tiny piece of metal wedged into the strike plate. Almost invisible unless you were looking for it. Someone had sabotaged Gate 7. At 3:59 p.m., Romano radioed control. Gate 7 is compromised. I repeat, Gate 7 lock is not functional. Do not initiate movement. The response came immediately. Romano, we show Gate 7 locked and secure on our board. Run your check again. I'm telling you, the lock is sabotaged. If we move 78 inmates through this gate, they'll know it doesn't lock. The system says it's locked. Movement proceeds at 4 p.m. 1 minute left. Romano positioned himself directly in front of Gate 7. If the inmates rushed it, he'd be the only thing between them and the corridor that led to the main exit. At 4 p.m., the A-block movement bell rang. Cell doors opened electronically. 78 inmates stepped out. They formed a line. Orderly. Exactly as they did every day. But Romano saw something in their eyes. They knew. The line moved toward Gate 7. Slow. Deliberate. Romano stood his ground. The first inmate reached the gate. Stopped. Looked at Romano. Something wrong, boss? Romano's hand was on his radio. Keep moving. Single file. The inmate passed through Gate 7. Then the second. The third. All of them passing within inches of the compromised lock. None of them tested it. By 4:04 p.m., all 78 inmates had passed through Gate 7 and were being escorted to the cafeteria by other officers. Romano exhaled. At 4:07 p.m., maintenance arrived to inspect Gate 7. They removed the metal wedge. Confirmed the sabotage. Repaired the lock. At 4:15 p.m., Sergeant Cole called Romano into his office. You were right about the gate. Good catch. But I need to know, how did you know? Romano showed him the note. Cole read it. His face went pale. Where did you find this? Near cell 23. Who's in cell 23? Romano checked the roster. Vincent Capello. Serving 25 to life for racketeering. Cole sat down slowly. Capello's been here since 1971. He's never caused trouble. Why would he warn us? Romano had been asking himself the same question. At 4:30 p.m., they brought Capello to an interview room. He sat calmly, hands folded. No expression. Did you write this? Cole showed him the note. Capello looked at it. Yes. Why? Because if I didn't, 17 people would have died today. Cole and Romano exchanged glances. Explain. Capello leaned forward. The gate was sabotaged 3 days ago. The plan was to rush it during movement, overpower the guards, take hostages, force our way to the vehicle bay. Who planned it? Doesn't matter. It was going to happen. I stopped it. How? By warning you. By making sure you'd be standing at that gate. By making sure they knew you knew. Romano felt his chest tighten. They saw me testing the lock. Capello nodded. And they saw you radio it in. They knew the plan was compromised. So they aborted. Why tell us? Why stop it? Capello's expression didn't change. Because 17 people would have died. Guards and inmates both. And I've got enough blood on my hands. At 5 p.m., Sergeant Cole reviewed the A-block movement logs from the past week. He found something that made him stop breathing. The 4 p.m. movement every day took exactly 9 minutes from gate opening to cafeteria arrival. 9 minutes. But 3 days ago, October 11th, the movement took 11 minutes. 2 extra minutes. Unaccounted for. Unreported. 2 minutes when the A-block tier would have been unsupervised while guards dealt with a distraction, in B-block. 2 minutes when someone had time to sabotage Gate 7. But when they checked the logs for what caused the B-block distraction, everything changed. There was no distraction. B-block's logs showed normal operations on October 11th. At 5:15 p.m., Sergeant Cole pulled the duty rosters for that day. Officer James Hartley had been assigned to B-block. Veteran guard. 22 years. Exemplary record. But Hartley had called in sick on October 11th. His replacement, Officer Thomas DeMarco. New hire. 6 weeks on the job. At 5:30 p.m., they brought DeMarco in for questioning. Do you remember October 11th? Anything unusual in B-block? DeMarco thought for a moment. No, sir. Quiet day. The movement log shows A-block took 2 extra minutes that afternoon. Do you know why? I don't know. I was in B-block. I wasn't watching A-block. Cole leaned forward. But you radioed in a disturbance in B-block at 3:58 p.m. 2 minutes before movement. DeMarco's face showed confusion. I didn't radio anything. Cole showed him the communication log. 3:58 p.m. Officer DeMarco reports verbal altercation B-block, Tier 2. Responding. DeMarco stared at it. That's not. I never made that call. Then who did? At 6 p.m., they pulled the audio recording of the 3:58 p.m. radio transmission. The voice was male. Professional. But it wasn't DeMarco's voice. At 6:20 p.m., audio forensics confirmed the transmission had been made from a different radio unit. Unit 47. Assigned to Officer Michael Romano. Romano felt the room tilt. I didn't make that call. I was at Gate 7. Cole checked the radio logs. Unit 47 shows activity at 3:58 p.m. on October 11th. Your unit. Someone else used my radio. Who had access? Romano tried to remember. 3 days ago. October 11th, Tuesday. He'd been in the break room before his shift. Left his radio on the bench while he got coffee. 2 minutes. Maybe 3. Anyone could have grabbed it. At 6:45 p.m., they reviewed security footage from the break room on October 11th. The camera showed Romano entering at 3:42 p.m., setting down his radio, walking to the coffee station. At 3:43 p.m., someone entered the frame. Officer Lisa Chen. 8 years at Sing Sing. No disciplinary record. Chen picked up Romano's radio. Spoke into it briefly. Set it back down. 40 seconds later, Romano returned. Grabbed his radio. Left for his post. At 7 p.m., they brought Chen in. She sat down, already knowing why she was there. I didn't know what it was for, Chen said quietly. I swear I didn't know. Who asked you to do it? Hartley. Officer Hartley. He said it was a prank. That Romano had pranked him last week and this was payback. He told me exactly what to say. What did you say? Verbal altercation B block, Tier 2. Responding. Cole felt sick. James Hartley asked you to make a false radio call using another officer's unit. He said it was harmless. Just a joke. I didn't think. At 7:30 p.m., they went to arrest James Hartley. He lived in Ossining, 12 minutes from the prison. When they arrived, his apartment was empty. Cleared out. Packed in a hurry. Lease paid through November, but clearly abandoned. At 8 p.m., they ran Hartley's background again. Deeper this time. His employment application from 1961 was spotless. References checked out. Military service verified. But his financial records showed something unusual. For 22 years, Hartley had lived modestly. Apartment rent. Basic expenses. Nothing excessive. Then, 3 months ago, July 1983, a deposit of $25,000 appeared in his savings account. Source, unknown. At 8:30 p.m., Vincent Capello was brought back to the interview room. Tell us about James Hartley. Capello's expression didn't change. He's been on the take for years. Everyone knew. Taking what? Money. Protection. Whatever the families needed. He facilitated communication. Moved contraband. Looked the other way. Which family? Lucchese. Same as me. Cole felt the pieces falling into place. The escape attempt. Hartley was part of it. He was essential to it, Capello corrected. He was supposed to be at Gate 7 on October 14th. He was supposed to accidentally leave it unlocked. Make it look like a mistake. But Romano was assigned to Gate 7. Right. So they had to sabotage the gate instead. Make sure it wouldn't lock even if Romano tried. At 9 p.m., they reviewed the duty roster assignments. Hartley had been scheduled for Gate 7 on October 14th. But on October 12th, 2 days before, the schedule was changed. Hartley was moved to B Block. Romano was assigned to Gate 7. The schedule change was made by Sergeant Dennis Cole. Cole stared at the document. I made that change. I remember. Hartley requested it. Said he needed to be in B Block that week for a training evaluation. Training evaluation? He said he was mentoring DeMarco. Wanted to observe him for a week. Romano understood immediately. He needed to be away from Gate 7. Because once they sabotaged it, he couldn't be the officer standing there when it failed. It would look too suspicious. But he didn't count on you finding the wedge, Cole said. At 9:30 p.m., Capello explained the rest. When the schedule changed, they had to adjust. They sabotaged Gate 7 on October 11th during those 2 minutes when A Block was supposed to be supervised. But Chen's fake radio call pulled attention to B Block. Gave them time. Why didn't they just abort when Romano got assigned to Gate 7? Because they'd already committed. Already paid people. Already set things in motion. They thought Romano wouldn't notice. Thought the system check would show the gate locked and he'd trust it. But you warned him. Capello nodded. Because I knew Romano. Knew he'd check. Knew he wouldn't trust the system. At 10 p.m., they issued an arrest warrant for James Hartley. At 10:30 p.m., New York State Police found his car abandoned at JFK Airport. Security footage showed him boarding a flight to Miami at 6:45 p.m. By the time they contacted Miami PD, Hartley was gone. At 11 p.m., Cole sat in his office reviewing everything. The sabotage. The fake radio call. The schedule change. The bribe. A 22-year corrections officer had sold out his colleagues for $25,000 and a promise of escape for mob-connected inmates. And it had almost worked. The only reason it didn't was because one inmate, a murderer serving life, had chosen to stop it. At 11:30 p.m., Romano asked the question everyone was thinking. Why did Capello really warn us? What does he get out of it? Cole had been wondering the same thing. And when they pulled Capello's visitor logs from the past month, they found a name that explained everything. His daughter had started working at Sing Sing 3 weeks ago. Her name was Angela Russo. Correctional officer. Training class of September 1983. At 11:45 p.m., Cole stared at the personnel file. Angela Russo, age 24. Maiden name, Capello. She'd used her married name on the application. Legal. Nothing deceptive. But Vincent Capello's daughter was now working in the same facility where her father was serving life. At 12:15 a.m. on October 15th, they brought Angela in. She sat down, hands trembling. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know about any of this. When did your father find out you'd been hired? I told him during visitation. September 28th. I was proud. I thought he'd be angry, but he got quiet. Cole checked the dates. September 28th, Angela tells her father she's working at Sing Sing. October 11th, Gate 7 is sabotaged. October 14th, Capello leaves a warning note. What did he say when you told him? Angela's eyes filled with tears. He asked me which block I'd be assigned to. I told him they were still deciding. He asked if there was any way I could request a different facility. I said no, I'd already accepted. Then he just looked at me and said, stay away from A block. At 12:45 a.m., they returned to Capello's cell. He was awake, sitting on his bunk, waiting. Your daughter, Cole said. Capello nodded slowly. I found out about the plan on September 30th. 2 days after Angela told me she was working here. How did you find out? They told me. Wanted me involved. Said it was a big operation. 17 men going out. I was invited. But you refused. Not at first. At first, I said yes. Because that's what you say. You don't refuse the families. What changed? Capello looked directly at Cole. October 8th. They told me the route. The timing. The gate. And I realized, if 17 inmates rushed Gate 7 and took hostages, they'd grab whoever was closest. Whoever was working that section. Angela. She'd been assigned to A-block corridor duties starting October 10th. She told me during visitation on October 6th. She was excited. First real assignment. Romano felt his throat tighten. You stopped the escape to protect your daughter. I stopped it because 17 people would have died, Capello corrected. But yes, if hostages were taken, Angela would have been first. And I've spent 12 years in here knowing I destroyed my family. I wasn't going to let her die because of my choices. At 1:30 a.m., Cole pieced together the complete timeline. September 28th, Capello learns his daughter works at Sing Sing. September 30th, Capello is recruited for escape plan. October 6th, Angela mentions her A-block assignment. Capello realizes the danger. October 8th, Capello tries to back out quietly. Is refused. October 11th, Gate 7 is sabotaged while Capello is forced to watch. October 13th, Capello writes the warning note. October 14th, Romano finds the note and stops the escape. Why didn't you come to us earlier? Cole asked. Why wait until the last day? Because if I warned you too early, they'd know it was me. They'd kill me. Or worse, they'd kill Angela. Make it look like an accident. A rookie mistake. She's 24 years old and working in a men's maximum security prison. Nobody would question it. So you waited until the day of. I waited until the 9-minute window. The movement. When Romano would be standing at Gate 7 alone. When the note could save everyone without obviously coming from me. At 2 a.m., Romano asked the question that had been bothering him. How did you know I'd find the note? I almost didn't see it. Capello smiled slightly. Because I know you, Romano. 19 years you've worked here. You notice everything. A piece of paper on the floor near my cell? You'd see it. You'd pick it up. You'd read it. You gambled on that. I gambled on you being the person I've watched for 12 years. The person who checks the locks even when the system says they're secure. At 2:30 a.m., the FBI arrived to take over the investigation. James Hartley had fled to the Cayman Islands. Extradition was unlikely. The other 16 inmates involved in the escape plot were identified and transferred to different facilities. Vincent Capello was placed in protective custody, though he insisted it wasn't necessary. They won't touch me, he said. A maid. Family. They can be angry, but they can't touch me. At 3 a.m., Angela Russo submitted her resignation. I can't work here, she told Cole. Not with my father inside. It's not right. Cole accepted it. What else could he do? At 6 a.m., as the day shift arrived, Romano stood at Gate 7 one more time. Maintenance had repaired the lock. Tested it thoroughly. Certified it secure. But Romano couldn't stop thinking about the 9 minutes. 9 minutes when everything could have gone wrong. 9 minutes when the system said everything was fine. 9 minutes when one man's choice saved 17 lives. At 8 a.m., Vincent Capello received a disciplinary report for unauthorized communication with staff. 30 days in administrative segregation. He accepted it without protest. At 9 a.m., Officer Michael Romano filed a detailed report recommending immediate review of all gate locking mechanisms at Sing Sing. The review took 6 weeks. They found similar vulnerabilities at gates 3, 9, and 12. All were repaired. But Romano knew the truth. If Capello hadn't warned him, those vulnerabilities would never have been found. At noon, Sergeant Cole stood in the warden's office explaining how a 22-year veteran officer had been compromised. Hartley had clean evaluations for 2 decades. How do we prevent this? The warden had no answer. Because the system had worked perfectly for 22 years. Until it didn't. At 2 p.m., Romano visited Capello in administrative segregation. Why did you really do it? And don't tell me it was just about Angela. Capello looked at him for a long moment. I killed 3 people in 1970. Ordered hits on 2 more in 71. I've got blood on my hands I can't wash off. Angela's the only good thing I ever made. And she chose to work in corrections because she believes in the system. Believes people can be held accountable. Believes justice means something. He paused. I couldn't let her die because I'd stopped believing that 20 years ago. Romano had no response. 3 months later, Angela Russo reapplied to the Department of Corrections. She was assigned to Bedford Hills. Women's facility. Far from Sing Sing. She worked there for 32 years before retiring in 2015. Vincent Capello died in Sing Sing in 1998. 15 years into his sentence. Heart attack. Angela attended the funeral. James Hartley was never apprehended. He died in Grand Cayman in 2004. The 9-minute window became part of Sing Sing training materials. A case study in how vulnerable systems are when humans stop checking what technology says is secure. But the deeper lesson was simpler. The system trusted James Hartley for 22 years. The system showed Gate 7 as locked when it wasn't. The system said everything was fine during those 9 minutes. And the only reason 17 people didn't die was because one man, a convicted murderer, chose to do what the system couldn't. Actually look at what was real instead of what the log said was true. This could happen again. Because systems still trust technology over vigilance. Because human choices still create vulnerabilities that no amount of security can prevent. And because sometimes, the person who sees the danger clearest is the one everyone stopped looking at. If this story shook you, the next one will be worse.